And ladies and gentlemen, we are live. It is time for the Behind the Shot Photo Critique number 28. Let's go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Shot. This is Photo Critique number 28. I'm your host, Steve Brazill, and this is not the normal podcast. You probably figured that out by now. But in case you're new to the channel, because the show that I did with Rudy Winston of Canon, where we talked in detail about the Canon AF systems and every option that you have, I got a lot of new subscribers. And so if you're watching this as a new subscriber and don't know, let me just let you know, the normal podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. It's available either in audio only or video format if your app, supports video like Apple Podcasts. And of course, the video is put here on YouTube. These critique shows, they are only on YouTube, and any links we mentioned, any notes we mentioned, those are all in the comments and description right down below the like and subscribe button. So head down there. You can find everything that you need there. And last but not least, I want to thank my friends over at DVE Store for the HD video. You can visit dvestore.com for all your digital video equipment needs. And that brings us into the fun. My co-host for these, Don Komarechka of Photo Geek Weekly. Don, how are you?
I'm doing well. It is 7 in the morning here, and I'm not a morning person. And so well is always relative. But the world is a very interesting place since we last convened. And I'll tell you, my priorities have shifted. You say a Photo Geek Weekly. I don't think I've recorded an episode since our last photo critique, because I've been running refugee aid here in Eastern Europe as a more prominent focus in my life. And I never thought I'd be doing that, but here I am.
Well, and let me just say, before we dive into critiques, people who don't follow you online, I've got to congratulate you and say thank you for what you're doing, because you are doing not only that, and you've mentioned it a number of times online, that you're getting aid to people, but you are also putting some of your work that you've made specific, to the Ukrainian issues that are happening right now. You've made some of your work available in the public domain in the colors of the Ukrainian flag, and what you're doing is just awesome. So for me, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Don.
I'm just doing what I can.
And
I know. Thinking about you over there, I've been a little worried, Don. I was thinking like, oh, you're close to the conflict, and I'm glad you're doing good, and I'm glad you're safe.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very definitely.
Chris, thank you for saying that. But Bulgaria, for those that don't know, is a European Union member nation. And a NATO member. So, there's a lot of protections that necessarily come with that. So don't worry about me too much. If NATO gets in this fight, Canada's as bad a place to be as we are here. It's let's hope nothing comes to that. But we're doing our part.
Well, and I've got to welcome our guest, our special guest this time around. And he's been here before, but I've got to set this up, even though normally I would do this thing where nobody sees you yet, and it's just me talking, and then I would bring you on with this big fanfare, but you're kind of already on screen here. But I got to say, I believe that what you guys do you and Jordan on DP Review TV is hands down. I'm not saying this because you're here. I tell people this anyway. Hands down, the best resource in the photography and videography industry that there is. That's how good you guys are. So Chris Niccolls of DP Review TV, welcome.
Wow. Thank you so much, Steve. That's very kind of you. And big thanks to you, honestly, you and Don. I mean, we're kind of a family, I would say, and you've always been so supportive of the show. So we really appreciate that. So thank you.
One day what we should do is we should get 4 of us on. You and Jordan and Don and me, and do this same thing, because Jordan's been on here before too. Yep. And again, really, really fun just to have everybody on. I do want to mention, before we jump into images here, we've got, there's no way I'm going to even get to all of these comments. So let me just say, we've got Terry Wagner was here really early. We've got Mario. I met Mario. I did the David Bergman workshop in Las Vegas. Mario was there. He actually got a shot in here with Mario today. Mark Hathaway is here. I almost picked a Mark Hathaway shot tonight, but unfortunately didn't. Jane, always here. Wonderful. Gary Monroe is here and gave an applause to Don, which is great. We've got, who else is in here? There's a ton of people. Stephen Wilson is here, and he's got his drink. Now, it's 7 in the morning for Don. Yeah. But I've got some Basil Hayden Dark Rye because it's 10 at night for me. So I'll be drinking for all of us. We've got Frex in here. Phil is in here. We're going to have a lot of fun and give you kind of a break from some of the normal stuff in the news today. We don't want to minimize what's happening. What's happening in the world is extremely important and more important than anything that we would ever do here. But at the same time, hopefully this will be a little bit of a respite from your normal daily stress, and you'll be able to just talk about photography for just a little bit. Goran is here from Bangkok.
Now, are we talking about Apple M1 Max today, or are we going to leave that alone?
Yes. By the way, my keyboard and I just ordered two Mac Studios. I'm getting 2 monitors. My wife's getting 1, and my keyboard and mouse came, but it's going to be May before probably I get it. Yeah, it's going to be nuts. Before we dive in, Don, do you want to do the whole Flickr spiel?
Yeah. So one of the reasons why we use Flickr is because it portrays images really nicely, not just in a low compressed format. So you get all the details, but it provides a lot of EXIF data and community so that you can comment on images, but the images can be in a separate group, a community that we are creating and trying to grow. The Behind the Shot community. So you can put your images there. And if you want them to be considered for inclusion on this show, put in the tag btscritique. And when you do that, it kind of gives us permission, both being in the group and with that tag, that you're telling us, yeah, you can freely use the image for the critiquing purpose and to have that roundtable discussion that we're about to have right now. So if you want to participate, that's how you do it. Find the Behind the Shot group, put the BTS critique tag on it, and you're good to go. We can't get to them all because there's a lot that gets submitted, but we'll do 9 every month.
Yeah, and I will say, picking the images every month is getting harder and harder. We got a lot of members and some amazing work, and so I'm going to say this. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. Every show I'm going to preface with this. The goal here is not to insult anybody, not to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't want to make anybody, cry. If you cry, though, there's not much I can do about it. But the goal is to elevate your photography to the next level, to give you an outside opinion that you can take or ignore. Throw away at your own peril, as it were. Whatever it may be, our goal is to try and help you take what may already be an amazing image just to the next level. And one of my favorite things is Scott Kelby wrote a blog post called What to Expect from a Photo Critique. Photo critiques go 2 ways. We may make comments, but of course you have to be open to those comments. You have to be willing to at least entertain the idea that we weren't there. We didn't smell the smells that you did. We didn't see the bird flying and have that awe of the moment. We're seeing it as a standard viewer would, having not experienced the moment. And so that requires a little bit of participation from you to kind of, participate in understanding the goals here. So with that in mind, Chris, you are the guest.
Oh.
So let's go for image number 1. Chris will go first. And this is called Enduring.
Yeah. So I think right off the bat, what Drake has captured beautifully here is a mood, right? I mean, I get relaxation, I get calm, and I love photos like this only because it's not something we often get here in Alberta. It's hard to find that kind of minimalist photography, especially, this kind of subject matter. He's got good light. Obviously, it looks like he's waiting for the right weather. I mean, fog, getting out there, that's half the battle. So I like that. Obviously, nicely composed, very symmetrical, all helps with that kind of calm feeling, subtlety of color. And there's beautiful, you can see the moisture, right? Like if you look very closely, we got lots of detail and you can see the moisture just falling off the leaves in the tree. So I think it captures a very somber, very relaxing, very beautiful mood right off the bat.
Okay. Don, what do you got?
So this tree I have seen photographed a number of times, and I don't want to say that that's a bad thing because it's a very, very picturesque tree and it's very iconic and there's a reason why it's photographed. But to that same point, any photograph that is of a subject or a scene that is very common, whether it be Horseshoe Bend or the Eiffel Tower or some very iconic place, the image has to stand out. because there are so many different versions of that. And this image is good. There's no question it's a good image, but it's not great. It doesn't stand out amongst all of the others of it that I have seen. Now, how would you do that? And sorry if my internet bandwidth is low right now. We're in a village, so just deal with the choppy video.
You're doing pretty good.
But okay. So for this image, I think to myself, what could be improved? How do you turn a good image into a great image? And I would say, okay, maybe there needs to be a stronger story, because the story that is in there is the story that everybody captures. So how do you change that? Well, possibly a longer exposure to maybe make the lines on the water a little bit blurrier so that you get a ghostly effect on the reflection rather than some choppy ripply effect. That might be something. I don't know, maybe you canoe over to this thing, plant a peanut on the tree and wait for a blue jay to show up. I don't know what you're going to do to try to amplify the signal here, but you need to do something out of the ordinary to make it extraordinary. Otherwise, it will forever be a good image, and that's okay. I don't want to stress too much on that, but I don't think it's a great one comparative to how many times the same subject has been photographed.
So this is going to be an interesting night because, and Don and I disagree now and then, but I don't know that I've ever disagreed with Don more. We tend to have the same kind of viewpoint on a lot of things. And a lot of times we tend to lean towards the technical end. I'm just going to say that as a viewer, when this thing comes up, to me, this has impact, almost negative impact. It's soothing, right? It's not impact like energy, like watching Breaking Bad. It's just soothing. I love this. This to me, by the way, is a perfect example of a subject being centered correctly, at least horizontally. Vertically, I'm going to comment on that in a minute. But where the tree is at the lower third, the reflection being still there, it's not so low that you lost the reflection. The horizon line is centered. That doesn't really bother me here because the tree is not. You kept beautiful color in the tree and strangely on the rock. Like you've got the perfect amount of shadow detail here. And I know who shot this, Dyck. He's been in one of my workshops before. He's a very good photographer. One of the things I think that makes this shot to me is the highlights. The fact that really, except for the tree and the rock and the reflection, this is a high key image. Like the background is gone. And so many people would have gone pure white or blown it to where the trees that fade into that, I'm going to call it white, although technically it's a little off white because they're not clipped. The trees fade in cleanly. It's not bad. You're not going to blown out. It really feels almost like it's on a white canvas, like this is printed on a white canvas. And you've got the ripples in the water. I don't agree it should be softer. I love the ripples in the water because it's the one tension movement on a soft image like this to get that. Here's what I think would make it a little bit better, and it's mainly just cleanup stuff. At the rock, where it meets the water, there's some bright speckles, specular highlights, also in the water to the right of the tree. I'd actually take those out. There's no reason to have something in an image like this that's pure white like that. The other thing is there is, at the base of the tree, there is a thick piece of wood coming out that draws my eye, and I'd rather have a clean line of that trunk coming up. I'd take that out too. But other than that, I got to say, Dyck, I think you knocked it out of the park on this one. I think it's really, really good. All right, let's go to the next image. And this next one is called Prance and Dance. Don?
Yes. So there's a number of tricky things about an image like this, from a technical perspective, because you have a white bird on a white background. Yeah. And to have a separation between those two, where you have a high key image of a high key subject. Now, the tonal ranges there have to be subtly adjusted to make sure that subject stands out. And I think we're halfway there. I think it's okay that certain things blend together, like the tips of the wings almost fade into the background. And I kind of like that. But the curve, the S shape of the neck, where you've got this little pocket of background behind the bird's head, sort of like under its neck, between the wing area, that could be a little bit darker. And so it's almost as if you could apply some gradient to the background, where the background gets a little bit darker on the bottom and fades to no effect as it gets to the top, so that you get a bit more punch of the whites of the bird without changing the beautiful organic softness of the image to any great extent. I love the fact that the feet are in an active pose. The bird is not sitting still. The wings are moving. The feet are above the water, and so you've got this great moment in time that will never exist again in exactly the way that you see it. But to that end, if your camera has the ability to be shooting a rapid sequence, maybe the shot before this one or the shot after this one didn't have the feet completely overlapping each other. And so that there might be a little bit more separation there. Normally, I would say get rid of the debris that's kind of floating around a scene, the little speckles and bits of dirt that are around, kicking up mud from wherever this bird was, and I like that. It's a powerful element to keep in the image. There's a lot of good about this photo. There's one more comment that I will save until the end to see if anybody picks up on it.
Interesting. Okay, I'm really interested to hear that one. I don't disagree with pretty much anything you say, except maybe one area. The feet thing I didn't think about. Let me start with what I really like. This is a moment. This is gesture, right? Gesture in photography is so important. I'm recording a show next Tuesday with somebody with an amazing bird shot, and it's all about gesture. You'll hear people like Rick Salmon mention it all the time. Jay Maisel wrote a book where the word gesture is in the title. It is so key, and the gesture here is beautiful. One of the things I love about the timing on this, so it depends if the wings were going up or going down, whether the shot before or after would be better, because the wing is not just above the eye where I can see the eye. It's enough above the eye that there's some space between the wing and the eye so it doesn't feel too cramped. Absolutely love that. But to me, the exposure is way off. You've lost all the detail in the neck. The way the wings fade into the background at the very top tips is a little off to me. I think unless you've recovered this already, then it should be recoverable. I would love to see you bring that detail back. Now, based on the gear list that was in the description for this photo, it's not cheap gear. I'm guessing that this person knows exposure. So here's what I would suggest on the chance that the person that took this goes, no, on my screen, it's perfectly exposed. I wonder if your screen is miscalibrated, because mine are calibrated and the neck is completely blown out. So if your screen is calibrated in such a way that your screen is too dark, you're going to think brighter is better. I would check that, but that's my opinion. Last but not least, those large pieces of water that are splashing up are really black. And I would actually clean some of them up. Don's thing about the feet, though, I will never unsee the fact that those feet are together at this point, and it's going to drive me nuts. Chris, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, those are all good points. I mean, the feet, yeah, it's unfortunate. I've got this thing where shooting for DP Review TV has changed how I look at photos, and I can't unchange it. As a photographic teacher with critiquing, we focused a lot on the technical, and we focused a lot on the creative bits as well, trying to guide students to something better. Shooting for DP Review, my photography has really become so much about technical achievement because we're trying to test cameras that I almost lose sight of just wanting to focus on the creative aspects and the beauty of it and the art of it. And so first thing I love about this bird and the pose, the S curve of the neck draws a lot of attention. I want to look there. Part of me kind of wishes the wing wasn't covering it because there's just a beautiful movement there. The dabs of color are going to draw your eye there. I love how we have that nice unity of just yellow and minimal color in the wing, underneath the wing and the feet. So I do wish I could see more of that. But the pose of the bird, normally you get a lot of bird shots where the dirt's kicking up. It gives us that action. It gives us that energy. But I kind of like it in this regard where it almost has a very regal look to it. And just that vertical pose, it almost feels like dance. It feels very still. It feels very calm. It's a tough thing with the dirt, Steve. I mean, I'm kind of focusing on that now that you pointed that out. So thanks, Don and Steve, for destroying that for me. You know, because it does show energy and it does show dynamic nature. And so part of me struggling, do we like the mirror reflection? Do I almost not need to see the mirror reflection? I almost want this thing to be composed vertically. There's something about the left to right composition that's not quite jiving with me. You know, so part of me is like, okay, cut it vertical. A mirror reflection of the bird might have been a really interesting shot. I know that's not always doable. And then the background being so minimal, I'm curious as how that was achieved. You know, was it just the angle and you just had a lot of clean water? Was there a bit of exposure, just killing the exposure to kind of get rid of detail and make it minimal, make it negative space? I'm curious as what's in there, and it's hard to see. I'm not really seeing anything except white field, but there's a bit of like, if you guys see it, there's a bit of shadow up in the top of the shot. And I don't know if that's like reflections or shadow from the sky or what, but I find that kind of strange. I almost wish like, if you were going to make it just pure white to get the minimalism, that should be pure white. And I'm seeing a lot of like gray. I don't know what they would be. Almost looks like brush strokes. Maybe it's reflections, but I think go uber minimal, clean everything up, or I don't know. I want to see at a tighter crop, maybe more of that mirror reflection, but I love the regal nature of the bird. I don't know. The feet aren't bothering that much. Steve, are the feet bothering you? Is that?
They weren't until now, but you know, it's interesting that you mentioned the crop because I should have said this. I would crop down probably from the tip of the wing to the top. I'd cut that in half and get a little bit more landscape. So I felt there was movement. I don't think that this crop necessarily works. Let's take a look at some of the comments here. Drake made the comment that it's a cool shot of a bird, but Gary made a comment that also didn't hit me. And that is, I like, where is it? Also, I like how the wings are almost like a crown around the head.
Right, Gary? Regal.
Yes, it is. Phil said you could crop and actually go wider like a full frame, which I totally agree with. And then who said this? Phil. Can't tell if it's pure white or has some gray in the back or floor. Some gradient would be nice. And that kind of, and Phil, by the way, agrees with the crop thing. It feels a little bit too centered, is what Edgar said. Yeah. But to me, I think this shot has a ton of potential. I just think that in many ways, the opportunity for it was missed. So anything else on this shot?
Yeah. So Steve, Chris commented on the background feeling a bit off, like it could be slightly more simplistic or brighter or transition to something other than a seeming attempt to make it into nothing, but there's still some blotches in there. One of those blotches caught my eye. And it's sort of almost the same latitude as the top feathers of the wing, just a little bit to the left of the wing. Yep. So it kind of intersects them a little bit. It's kind of a hard line on the one side facing the wings itself, and then it's soft on the other side. That is a classic healing brush artifact, if I'm reading it correctly, which means if I'm right, that somebody was trying to clean up stuff in the background and accidentally intersected the wing when they were cloning. And if that's true, good on you for cleaning up the background to make it that way. But there's always a better way to do it and to make it a little bit more seamless and to carry the idea forward of just fading into nothingness, fading into white. Might have been a better solution.
I would actually argue if the goal here was that minimalistic white background, I think it's the wrong choice. I think I need to see some environment with this. A bird in the middle of a white box just isn't as compelling to me.
But Terrell loved it in the tree photo, Steve. Come on.
I know. I'm digging the ethereal regal look, and Terrell had a great idea. This, however, printed on the right paper. I like that people are thinking in the world of print. On the right paper, I think you could do some interesting things with this. Let's go to the next one. And strangely, this is one of Terrell's images. I'll go first on this one. Panning to me is such an art. There are people that pan well, and there are people who do not pan well. And you can tell because they pan and then they try and fix the subject that's blurry, right? Sports photographers tend to be very good at panning. Like even me for live music, if a musician is whipping their hair up and down as they're playing guitar, I will move with them regardless of my shutter speed to minimize any of that effect. And what Terrell did here is really well executed, right? This is a perfect pan shot. It is, you feel like the car is doing 70. The bushes are so blurry. The house in the background is so blurry, and yet I can still tell it's a house. I can see the eaves. Almost I can see rain gutters on there. But the person driving the car, tack frickin' sharp. The logo, the Ferrari logo, tack sharp, which, by the way, if that logo got hidden behind the bush, if that logo was in any way unrecognizable, ruins the shot. It's important to know that this beautiful, really interesting, rich car is a Ferrari, feel like it's moving fast, and not that he had any choice in this, but the car color contrast to the bushes and the house, spot on. However, the crop is way too tight to me, right? A car moving this fast, I really have to have a little bit of nose room. I'd like this to be a little bit more pano, and here's how I would do that. Down at the bottom, I'm guessing this is an island, like a divider island in the middle of a street that has bushes, because that curb at the bottom is red like it's painted a red curb. I don't need the red curb at all. In fact, it draws my eye away from the car. Crop just above that red curb so that I only get the bushes. Crop the eaves out of the house. It'll give me a little more pano, and if you don't have more left or right, that will at least give me a little bit more horizontal motion in this picture. But in a perfect world, I would really like to see a little bit more room in front of it, maybe a tad bit more behind it, but more in front than behind. Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with that, Steve. Like, the first thing kind of struck me is we have, again, like very nice unity of color. There's nothing really pulling the eye away. I mean, I agree with you on the red curb, but I like unity of color, right? I talk about a lot in class where we've got the red stripes of the American flag, red on the back of the car, of course, the red curb, even like it looks like berries or flowers in the bushes. And I love that it gives a lot of energy, but when you have that similar color space, it makes the eye move a lot, right? As you say, it makes the eye move a lot, makes you kind of scan the scene, and that red curb does drop down. I mean, Terrell, like, I love how straight the lines are in the bush. Like, that's another indicator that his pan was really smooth, right? We have no wibble wobbles. We've got no up and down movement. So really nice and smooth. So I agree, like a tighter crop, top and bottom, would certainly suit this shot. It's an interesting shot because I don't think I very often see panned vehicles where you have something obscuring the car. Luckily, I think those bushes just do lend a lot of interesting motion. Part of me is like screaming, like, I want to see the wheels. I want to see what it's driving on because I'm so used to seeing shots like that. But yeah, I think it's well executed. It's a sexy car. I want to see more of that leading the subject as well.
Don?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you guys have said. There's a couple of additions that I would like to make. Number one, the bushes in the foreground, some of them had very bright lines before the pan, and when they panned, they turned into really interesting geometry, specifically in the lower left-hand corner. And I like that look. It's something that I don't often see with pans because everything just gets so linearly moving. But then these were so bright and they spread out, and you get this cool geometry look. So I kind of like that effect on this scenario. I would not only take up the bottom to remove the red curve, but I would take down the top to remove the eaves, because those bright lines at the top of the frame, they just pull me away from the scene. But I guess to a greater extent, if you're putting yourself in a scenario where you could be photographing cars in a pan, is that background the best choice? because if you were to be a little bit one way or the other, maybe the background behind the car could be more greenery, or just slightly less intense in terms of the brightness and the sort of the concrete and the man-made structures. And I'm not saying that it's wrong. It shows the environment that this car is in, and that's perfectly fine. But it's also brighter than the car, aside from the hat that the guy is wearing that kind of balances things out again. And so, it's just that background, and I'm trying to decipher it. I can see an American flag there, I think, and I can see a blue rectangle. Well, what is the blue rectangle? Maybe it's a street name or something. And I keep looking into that background, trying to figure out what it is, rather than spending my time staring at that beautiful car.
That house is for sale, Don. That house is for sale.
Well, and you know what? I actually wonder if he's got enough data in there, and he should, to at least burn down some of that house a little bit to make it not compete so much brightness wise. Yeah, really nice. Yeah. But again, I want the car is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, viewers at home, Steve is not suggesting you burn that house down. It's like just the exposure, right?
Yes,
man,
definitely.
What if the car was like classic Ferrari red? While we're on the topic of color.
Okay.
What do you think?
I don't think it would work.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why, and this is going to be a stupid explanation, but I'm going to go for it anyway. I'm going to own it. I'm colorblind. So to me, the classic Ferrari red, while it's really red, and yes, I would see separation with the bushes, for me, it would be way too close. Whereas here, I get that color contrast. Of course, somebody's not colorblind.
If it was a classic Ferrari red, Chris, but my opinion is that you would need something sort of complementing that color in the image outside of green.
Right.
Green and beige and white are the only things that we have in the image. So you would need something solidly blue to complement the red, and we don't have that here.
Yeah, not a lot.
Although, if it was Christmas time.
Sure, Steve. Sure.
I don't know. Okay. Chris, you're up on this one, and it is called To Be or Not to Be.
Absolutely. So, of course, I mean, the classic comment that I'm going to make right off the bat, of course, is we're back to that favorite word. It's juxtaposition, right? I mean, it's that beautiful, I wouldn't even call it a contrast. I mean, there's something that's so fitting about it. So just the difference in age, I like the composition, especially the balance of the edge of the frame of the canvas of the baby to the edge of the actual picture. I like it. It's pleasing. I might cut that black line out at the left just a touch.
I got nothing now.
No, I keep putting my hands in front of the screen as well. I mean, it's one of those street photographs where you just see a moment, you see the juxtaposition, you capture it. Yeah, I don't like, I'm not going to comment about the gentleman's expression or anything. I think it's good. Soft color, nice and even. It's one of those things where you're like, yeah, this guy's not wearing like a bright coat or anything. I like that because you get to work with that nice tame color palette. So yeah, balanced, feels calm, very simple to absorb.
Don?
All right. So, again, it's a simpler composition, so it's difficult to truly dissect on a technical level. Chris, I agree the line on the left has to go. But similarly, the lines of the armrests of the chair, I like that they are just at the edge of the frame. And usually I don't like that. Usually I'd want to have a little bit more space there.
Edgar just said would want to see more of the chair or couch. Or crop it out completely, but I do agree with you. I like how little bit there is. Go ahead.
He might be floating if we crop it out completely.
Exactly. And if you have too much, then it would be too much of a dark tone in the frame that doesn't exist anywhere else, and it would draw your eye to there. But this almost kind of functions as a leading line that extends to the line of the jacket and the sleeves up to the man's face. And so that functions well. It serves a purpose. Maybe it would be better if the guy was taking a nap. I don't know if that would connect him better to the to the photo in the background. But again, you can't really change somebody's composition. Their facial expression and how they're posing if you're just doing street photography. So to that end, I think that's about as good as it could be. It looks like the artwork hanging on the wall might have some damage to it. There's a couple of little marks that look like they're dents in the picture. Mm-hmm. And just as a courtesy to whoever took the photo in the background, I might just go and clean up. I see 3 little dents in that print. I might just go and fix those up for the sake of the image.
Yep. Okay, so mine's going to be shorter now because both of them hit a couple things I was going to say. So let me start here. I love that juxtaposition of new and old. I love that the baby is wrapped in the white blanket and the guy's hair, around the face, and the guy's hair does the same thing kind of to him. There's a connection there to me that I see that I actually really like. However, the picture isn't level. Let's start there. Yes, you could do more chair. If you did more chair, it's going to make this picture very bottom heavy because the chair is so dark. You have to see the chair. You can't have the guy sitting but not knowing that he's sitting. I think you need the chair, but to me, it's the right amount of chair, but it's not level. So what it looks like the maker of this image did was crop, assuming that the top of the baby picture was level and the left of the baby picture was vertical. And that's equidistant. But the right of the baby picture isn't straight. The bottom of the baby picture is not straight. The arm of the chair is higher on the left than it is on the back. The vertical lines in the walls are not true. All of that should be fixed. And here's the easiest way to do it. True the arm of the chair, true the vertical lines in the right side and bottom of the baby picture, right? And then let that baby picture bleed off. Cut into the baby picture to take that line out on the left. Cut just a hair, not too close, just a hair so that the baby picture does connect with the edge of it. Mm-hmm. I think those things alone would make this picture stronger. But at the same time, Don said it, there's dents in the photo on the wall. Take the time to clean that type of stuff up. Not going to hurt you. In other words, make the image. Don't just take it and walk away. Anything else on this one?
No, it's easy fixes.
Yeah. But again, a lot of potential.
Yeah. Exposure's good too. Nicely done.
Before I move on, one comment had me wondering what you guys think. D. Neilkiss, or maybe it's Daniel Kiss. I don't know. I apologize if I messed it up. A wider crop would be nice. It's too tight for their taste. I don't think the right is, I want the picture bleeding off. Do you think it's too close behind the guy?
I don't. Oh, I don't necessarily mind it.
Even be closer, because it's really a juxtaposition, as Chris said, that word of the old and the new,
right?
And the closer you can get to expressing that, the better.
I mean, a square crop might be interesting.
Oh, that could be interesting.
Just 1-to-1, because then you get a very balanced kind of feel. You have sort of that equal distance all around. I mean, and you'd have the sort of 2 opposing corners of the 2 people. I mean, that might be too clean. I don't know, but I'm a big fan of square lately. I want square digital cameras. What gives?
Yeah, exactly. Mark said that he'd like the man's face a little brighter, which, yeah, I could see that as well.
Sure.
Let's go to the next one. Dawn, you want to go first on this one? It's Ladies Watch Liz Claiborn.
Well, that is the name on the watch, so that's appropriate.
Except, can I add something quick before you go?
Yep.
Except it's spelled wrong in the description.
Okay, so maybe fix that. Add the E on the end. But okay, so with macro images, and this isn't quite macro, but it's still in the same ballpark of jewelry or watches or things like that. Dust and scratches are your enemy. You think that the wedding ring you have on your hand sparkles? Try to take a close-up picture of it, and you will see how badly brutalized that has been from being on your hand for a long period of time. And you see that with this jewelry. There's a lot of scratches, and it's difficult, especially on a high reflective surface, to remove them. There are some techniques in Photoshop, and you can do some tutorials to try and process those away. But it becomes even more difficult when they start to fall out of focus, because then they're not as clear, and it's just like this weird smudge mixing with reflections. And we're seeing that in the top right-hand corner as well. So focus stacking could be a thing to improve the clarity, because it kind of feels like you should either have it all in focus, because you've got one half the band in the lower left that's sharp, but in the upper hand it's kind of uniformly out of focus. And I'd rather go all in, having everything sharp, or take that other longer part of the band and kind of wrap it around, intentionally fading it out of focus. So it fades a lot further out of focus until it just becomes a lot of bokeh in the background. And then you could actually use that as a compositional curve, rather than having a diagonal line across the frame to wrap things back in towards the face of the watch, which is really where the visual anchor point in the frame solidly is. And one other thing, I don't want to take everybody's thunder here, but near the dial on the watch, there's a little bit of a glowy bright spot right beyond its edge, and I don't know what the cause of that is, but that's a distraction in a high contrast area, and I would clean that up and get rid of it too.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to echo a couple of things that Don said here. First of all, beautiful watch, great subject matter for product photography, right? I like that you chose the angle. Very smart to lay this out on an angle like that and shoot top down on it. I do like that. There's a couple of things, though, that when it comes to product photography and specifically watch photography, never cover up the name. So that minute hand should not be over the Liz Claiborn. I don't turn the knob and change the time. That's really important. As far as the little teeny reflection that's under the crown of the watch on the bottom side, the knob that you change the time with, my guess is you laid this out on maybe an iPad or something reflective like a wedding photographer does with a ring, and you're getting a little bit of highlight reflection of that in the glass that you're on. So I would personally probably put something under this watch to lift it off the glass maybe a little bit and see if that helps. But I've got to echo what Don said. First of all, you got to clean this thing up before you shoot it as best as you can, and then you got to control the highlights. So the bottom left, the left side, bottom left of the face, but the left side from the angle we're looking at it at, there's another bezel notch there that I can't see at all. And I should be able to see that. So what I want you to think about when you're shooting somebody's product, you have to assume you're shooting it, even if you're not, if you're doing it for, a photography class, whatever, you have to make the assumption that you are shooting this so that the person, the company that makes this watch would feel comfortable that it's a representation of their product. And I want to see all the bezels. I want to see all the details. I want to see that very expensive band. And I don't even think you need to shoot this macro. Back up far away and just use a normal lens and just shoot a depth of field where at least that top half of the band is in focus and doesn't almost look like it's got motion blur, which is kind of odd there. That's really mainly what I would change. But again, if you look at it from the point of view of, if you were the inventor and designer Liz Claiborn, would you be happy with this? I think you'd be surprised how much of it comes to mind. Chris, what do you got?
So this is where Deep Your View TV, Chris, is going to have to come out. So
yeah.
I totally agree that, one band is out of focus, one band is in focus, and that's tough. And it brings up another issue here. So on the top right band where it's out of focus, it looks like we're getting a lot of longitudinal chromatic aberration, right? We're getting in those high contrast areas like a green cast. Yeah. And it's tough. And I think it's longitudinal chromatic aberration because we're not really getting it in the left band as much where it's more in focus, although we're still getting some chromatic aberration. I see purple there. And because this watch band doesn't have any color, it's not a cloth band, it doesn't have any color. Loca can be very difficult to get rid of, but you could easily just desaturate that color away in these particular shots. as well. It looks like in the bottom left, we're actually, I think, getting the photographer's arm reflecting in the silver.
Thank you, Chris. That's one of the things I didn't comment on. I was hoping that somebody would mention.
Yeah, so if you look at the bottom left, right, we're getting lots of chromatic aberration, purple fringing, green fringing. And this is tough, right? Because this is like the technical part of how lenses behave, and some are better than others. And yet we talk about it on the show because it is something you have to appreciate. You know, as much as I would love to talk about art and composition, which I think was done quite well here, it's the technicalities that can really come out of the gear that we're using that can actually hinder your art. And so I'd get rid of those. Again, desaturating even the band that's in focus would do a lot to getting rid of some of the weird colors. We're getting like tobacco color reflections, purple reflections, green reflections. It is a cavalcade of color on that bottom left. So that would be my suggestion.
Let me bring in a couple comments on this one, because Drake had a good comment. The bottom edge of the dial actually goes to pure black, and it merges with the black background.
Sure, yeah.
Again, got to get some separation on that. Yeah. And then I was trying to remember in my head, there is a time that you'll notice almost every watch picture is at. And in this case, Phil made the comment, how dare you not 10-10 it? And that's the thing. That's how you avoid hitting any names or anything that's important, is 10 minutes to 2 or 10 minutes after 10. Yeah, really. Okay. Anything else on this one?
I think Terrell says that this is where pros dawn, naming me, do crazy focus stacking thing. And yeah, you know what? You could, but there's also another technique that just to briefly mention here, especially with higher resolution sensors. Steve, I think you had mentioned it, get further away, get a greater depth of field, and then you can crop into the same composition. A 60 megapixel sensor doesn't mean that you need a 60 megapixel image. You can get a 20 megapixel image out of that. Or if your camera has a high resolution mode, like I can get nearly 200 megapixel images out of my camera for static subjects. And I don't need that, but I can thread the needle between depth of field and diffraction and maximize that depth of field without losing image quality, and not need focus stacking as a solution for this particular problem. There's other means to that end.
And real quick before we move on, Chris, you mentioned the chromatic aberration. Mm-hmm. For those that don't know what it is, they won't know how to avoid it. So put that DP review hat on again. What could this photographer have done? Possibly. No warranty on this advice. What could they have done to maybe avoid that?
It's tough. I mean, if it's LOCA, with longitudinal chromatic aberration, you're basically going to get color fringing if areas are in focus and out of focus, right? I mean, I'm guessing that if that left band was out of focus but towards the camera, it'd probably be glowing purple. You often get this sort of shift where one side goes green cyan, then the other side's going to go pink purple. Get it in focus would be one option to get rid of it. Chromatic aberration can be cleaned up in post to some degree, but LOCA, longitudinal chromatic aberration, that's very hard to get rid of in post traditionally. So get things in focus. Again, desaturate in this particular case, that's an easy fix. But yeah, it's tough. It's really based on the lens. And so when we're looking at lenses, you can try stopping down. That will help a bit, although I imagine they probably didn't shoot this wide open. Yeah, it's tough. If it's out of focus, it'll show a color cast in a lot of cases.
Okay. So let's take a quick break.
I want to jump in and give one tiny piece of advice that the Canon MPE 65 millimeter macro lens has this type of chromatic aberration. It's a lens designed in the late 90s. And so while it's a workhorse of mine, it's long in the tooth and it's got problems. So what I typically do is I bring a version of the image, like I create a new layer in Photoshop, and I send that to Camera Raw as a filter. And then in that filter, I crank the color noise reduction all the way up, the detail all the way down, and the smoothness all the way up, just to like 100%. Mm-hmm. And then that's a separate layer. And then I use a layer mask and I paint that in where I find the most egregious chromatic aberrations of this type, and just manually kind of paint it away. And And that works. It's time intensive, but there are solutions in post. It's just there's no button to press to quickly fix it.
Right.
No, it's quite a bit of work. You gotta know what you're doing.
Well, and it's like sometimes when I judge image competitions, I have to say, when an image comes up, I'm sorry, but you did whatever processing to the sky. How come the sky that's between the branches of the tree wasn't done? Right. There are times that, yeah, it's time consuming, but there is simply no substitute for the attention to detail, what I call edging the lawn. Everybody mows their lawn, but now and then you got to take the time to edge it. You got to get in there close, and you got to, I don't care if you're 800%, there just is no substitute for that. I do have to just throw this one before we take our break. Terrell said, I think Chris has been suppressing his inner geek on his own show, that Cheshire grin. Okay. So before we go to the last four images, our guest today, Chris Niccolls, if you have not watched DP Review TV, I'm going to say this each and every time I have either him or Jordan on the show. Part of what it is, and I want to ask you about this, part of what I think makes your show work is it's kind of like when you watch the movies and there's those famous pairings of people that just have a chemistry. And I feel like you and Jordan on camera have an amazing harmony together. Do you feel that as you're making these things?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's obviously a question we get asked a lot because people like the dynamic duo, right? We get that said a lot, and it's been a partnership that's been going on now more than a decade, right? And we often go to the old married couple kind of thing, right?
Oh, they bicker like an old married couple behind the scenes. Trust me.
We certainly do, you know. But yeah, absolutely. It's our magic. And like any old married couple, we probably take it for granted once in a while. But yeah, no, it's the thing. So basically what you're saying is tell Jordan he can't get rid of me. Okay, Steve, that's what we just let him know that. Okay. Let the viewers know that. But no, I appreciate that. It's rare that you get to as much as we might to argue and whatever, it's rare that you get to work with somebody where you can just get along, and we're basically family, right? Like our families are interconnected. We're interconnected. So it really is, we're very fortunate. It works. And yeah, no, we're lucky.
It comes through on camera. Freck said, Chris and Jordan chemistry is fantastic for sure. And I watch the videos even when I have no interest in the topic. So if people want to follow DP Review TV or you, where can they find you? Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, where?
Yeah, well, you can find me. I mean, the best way to find me is my last name. Almost nobody has it. So if you type it in there on Instagram, you'll find me. But at Chris.Niccolls right there on Instagram. And then YouTube, just go to DP Review TV. We'd really appreciate the subscribers. I know subscribers isn't really like a cool thing anymore, and YouTube doesn't really push it, but we'd love to see it. We'd love to see that because our egos are fragile.
Yes. Yeah. We're creatives. Everybody. Yeah. And the last name he's talking about, the way it's unique is that there's two C's and two L's.
And no H. Yes. Very strange.
And no H.
Very
strange. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Don Komarechka, my friend, where can people find you? What are you doing as far as photography nowadays?
Well, I am currently trying to support the Ukrainian people with my images, and I know I'm not going to beat that drum too hard right now. We're talking about photos and trying to avoid the world news, but I'm trying to embrace the fact that as a creative, we can still help. You know, there are things that we can do to make the world a slightly better place with our images and the messages that we can carry forward, and really trying to embrace that. You can find me online at Doncom or at Doncom Photo, depending on the platform. Instagram is Doncom Photo, and you can see some of those images. And when I'm not taking pictures, I'm thinking about what the next one's going to be while I'm driving grocery carts full of supplies and aid to the refugees arriving here in Varna, Bulgaria. So it's kind of where my focus is shifted right now. And if people don't realize, my last name is Ukrainian. That's my paternal heritage. So there's a connection back to those people. But even if there wasn't, you know, I'd still have a heart to help out. One of the reasons for us to move here was, of course, my wife is Bulgarian. So, you know, there's a connection there. But it was a plan this summer to go to the small farming hamlet outside of Lviv called Ulichne. It's where my family's originally emigrated from in 1903. And I plan to go and visit there as soon as it is safe to do so, and try to learn more about my own family heritage. It's a bit of an odyssey for me at the moment, going in many different directions. Photo Geek Weekly will return. Don't get me wrong, that is coming back, but there are more important priorities at the moment.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. Right now, again, there was part of me that thought about canceling tonight because there are simply more important things in the world that should take a priority. However, people still go to work. People still have to, worry about their kids. And I'm hoping that this show gives you, like I say, a little bit of a break from the news. But again, my hat's off to you, my friend, for all that you're doing. When I saw some of your, Robin is here. When I saw some of your images with the Ukrainian colors, made public domain to support Ukraine, I applaud you with, as much volume as I possibly can. Before we get back into images, I just want to remind everybody that if you want to watch the normal podcast is different than this. We do this once a month, but I have 2 shows a month that are the normal podcast where I have a photographer on, we take one of their images and we dissect it. I almost call it interviewing the photograph. And the idea behind it is to look at that photograph in detail to help, hopefully, better understand the choices that photographer made with their work and with their images. If you want to find any of the normal episodes, behindtheshot.tv is where you can do that. These shows are posted as well with a little blog post for each of the critique shows at behindtheshot.tv. But behindtheshot.tv is wherever you get your podcasts. These critique shows are only here on YouTube. And again, either on the blog post or here on YouTube, if you want to know more about Chris or Don, all the links are right down below the like button. So head on down and find what you need. And I want to point out one other thing. I've recently reached out to a couple of companies that I like. Lens Rentals, Kelby One, Platypod, Creative Live. I'm missing somebody, and it's going to bug me that I'm missing them. These are, or Flern is one of them. Some of the people that I just think are really good resources for photographers. I want to let you know they are not affiliate links, right? I don't make anything off of these. They're just people that I happen to know, and I like what they do for the community. And I reached out to them and said, can we get some discount codes? And so if you're interested in discount codes for anything, head to behindtheshot.tv, and hopefully you'll find something there that that you can use in one way or another. You guys ready to go on to the last 4 images?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right. So this one I will go first on, and this one is called Behind the Keys. And Mario is here. Mario made this, and like I said at the beginning of the show, I met Mario kind of in a really interesting way. My friend David Bergman, Canon Explorer of Light, award-winning music photographer. He shoots for Luke Combs, Bon Jovi, and a wonderfully nice guy. And I actually went, even though I'm a live music photographer, my attitude is I can learn from anybody, even though I already do it. Everybody will do something slightly different. And so I went to Las Vegas and I took David's Shoot from the Pit workshop. If you're interested in a live music photography workshop where you literally go in, starting at like 2 o'clock, he's about to do a stadium one where they start earlier. He'll do like a 4-hour presentation. You get an all-access pass and you shoot the entire show. It's a really cool thing. And Mario is at the one in Vegas, and I met him. And Mario is actually a really, really good photographer, and I was really excited that he participated with this one, because in this shot, for the stage setup and the angle that he has, and understand in music photography, you may not be able to choose where you stand, right? You may be stuck in a spot and you can't go anywhere. Wonderful color control here, right? The fact that that suit didn't get too dark, blend into the background. The African-American skin tone is so beautiful, so accurate here with the highlights on the head from the stage lights. Really, really nicely done. The symmetry here is pretty nicely done. I like the idea of the symmetry. Him in the middle, the 2 keyboards coming out at a 45-degree angle, the use of negative space above him in the spotlight, I don't mind generally. Here's what I'm missing from this. A couple of things. One, if you're going to go symmetry, you got to be really careful that it's symmetrical. And in this case, the keys, he's vertical. The keys actually feel like they're tilted right a little bit just from perspective. The right one's lower. I wouldn't mind that so much. It's just accentuated because you have a gap on the right that you don't have on the left. So shoot wide to crop. If this was in camera, really close, but if you shot a little wider, you'd have some leeway to get that balance later. Spotlight position, great. Love that it's shining on him. I think that spotlight could use not on the beam itself, but on the flares coming out from it. It looks soft and blurry, and I tend to like a little bit of pop from my spotlights. Take an adjustment brush, throw a dehaze of 10 and a clarity of maybe 5, and just brush over those starbursts coming out from the light. I think would just give it a little teeny bit of a pop, maybe even a little highlight added to really have that pop. Don't worry about the highlights there. Last but not least, and this is the big thing, I mentioned earlier gesture. Gesture is everything. This is not to say that people can't be in a relaxed, calm, comfortable position, but generally I'd want to see his face if that was the case. In this particular case, I am missing a moment of action. A wall can have gesture if it adds to the scene and connects with the viewer. And as far as I know here, he literally is asleep. So that's the only thing. You have no control over that other than shoot other frames. A lot of potential in the scene. I just think the moment was not the best moment to capture. Chris, you want to go next?
Yeah, I guess you want to shout and wake him up. I guess Steve would be the option. Hey, just give him a poke or something. I don't know. Yeah. I liked how calm it was. Right. I mean, I get what you're saying on the symmetry. The bottom keyboard really throws me off. Part of my brain is like, if we crop out that bottom keyboard, that kind of all goes away. Right. Yep. We don't really get that reference anymore. So part of me wants to do that. But the tough part is in this frame, I know it's just a towel, but I love that the towel's the same color as his suit. I like the balance it provides. So I don't want to lose that. Like, I get straightening it for the actual subject. I think that's a good choice. So that's a tricky one, right? I mean, how do we crop this to get rid of that bottom keyboard and then not lose? Sorry, I'm covering myself because I'm, blocking out on the shot. That's a tricky one. I don't know what to do there. Honestly, to fix that.
And one of the interesting things is music photography. The reason I love music photography is because music photography fits different genres based on what your end use is. If I am photographing this as I generally do for a radio station, that's photojournalism. I can't straighten the keyboards and then use Liquify to straighten him, right?
Right.
However, if I'm shooting for the band, the venue, the management, whatever, which I also do periodically, that's marketing. I can now start cloning stuff out that I can't do in photojournalism. Sure. And you made an interesting comment that about the towel, that you liked the fact that it was the color of the suit. And who was it that said it? Edgar made a comment about the towel. Likely out of your control, but the towel on the left is distracting. So I'm going to throw in here one thing. When I shot BB King, do I have BB King on the wall behind me? Yeah, but you guys can't see it. It's up above me. When I photographed BB King, he has a bright white towel on a towel rod. And it drove me crazy, except that's BB King.
Yeah.
Right? In a way, that towel is part of the story. And that you got to keep in mind from a photojournalism point of view, including the towel was actually brilliant. I'm sorry, were you done?
No. I'm all for towels. We need more towels in the world. So, no, I mean, the only other thing is I like how still he is. There's something, and I think maybe when you come from a music background, I get it. Like you're looking for that moment, you're looking for the energy, the passion. But for me, not coming from a music photography background, I like how it really brings you down to focusing on his, like the curves of his body, like his shoulders really grabs my attention. I love the rim light on his arms, and he almost looks like he's in a moment of reverence or something, and I like the folds on his neck. I think it's really cool. The microphone stands out. I wouldn't be able to do anything to that spotlight because I'd be cheating on Deep Review TV, but totally go for it on an art shot. So no, that's it. Otherwise though, there's something about this just it's calming. I love just studying his shape and form. I like the unity of color again with the keyboard green, the star green, and I'll pass it over to Don.
Okay. And you're right. There is a reverence to his position. Don, what do you got?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like that, but number one, the keyboard right in front of him. So there's 3 keyboards, one on the left, one on the right, one below. That bottom keyboard is a horizon line to me, and it is so crooked I can't stop staring at that line. So that I don't care if he becomes slightly slanted. If you make that line horizontal, you got to do it. You have to do that. But overall, it seems quiet. With a lot of concert photography, you have a lot of noise in the image by like multiple spotlights, multiple people. Maybe there's an audience. Like there's a lot of stuff, and this image just is very minimalistic, and I like that. Mm-hmm. And the positioning of the musician here, of the pianist, is also quiet. And I think those two go well together. I would have maybe liked to have seen like one hand off to the side pressing a single key, or just like something where I could hear a note in my mind when I looked at the image. Not a symphony. I mean, you've got all of these keys to be pressing. You don't want someone flailing their arms around in a case like this, but just a gentle gesture of actually playing. Maybe that's not what this guy does. And so I don't know his style. I don't know the musician. And so I'm trying to, project my own wants and desires into somebody else. And maybe that's not a good thing, but I want to hear what note this man is going to play next. And I will wait, and I'm just looking at the image and I'm waiting for that note. And maybe the fact that it's making me wait for that, maybe that's the right message. I like this image.
And by the way, his hands could be on that lower keyboard for all that we know. That's entirely possible. He's just doing something right in front of him. But this is why I love people participating in the comments, because imagine if you would, the camera's on the other side of him, and he's just like this, looking straight down the barrel of the lens, right? And then, as Gary says in the chat, this shot is the back of the album cover. And you've got room up above for all the song titles. This picture would work. I could actually see this being licensed for that. As a standalone shot on its own, that it changed a little bit. And that's the beauty of this type of photography to me. It really depends what the end use is. Is he using it, or are you putting it in a newspaper, right? That's going to actually affect the result here. By the way, Mario, he already put it in there. He's a session player. Somebody asked who the musician was. He's a session player. All right, let's go to the next one. And this one is going to be for Chris to go first. And this is called Central Park Rain.
Right. Part of it's kind of, it's sad because I don't want to see any more dirty snow. I'm tired of dirty snow right now living in Alberta, but that's not the photographer's fault. That's mine. Right off the bat, what hits me, it's pretty classic. I want to see this as a vertical crop. I always go that way when I see a long S curve like this. It just makes more use of the space and the frame. I'd even say like, chop out that dirty snow because it's bothering me personally, because I don't want to be reminded of horrible winter. Take the top off. We can see just over the road. Take the top off and just make that S curve go all the way through that vertical frame. That would be my recommendation from a compositional standpoint. I can see why they took the photo. I mean, it's always nice to have that that minimalist kind of color in the background, and then that splash of color to really draw the eye. And, the blue gives you a kind of mood that you don't normally see, right? We always see a lot of red, orange. Zooming in, I don't know. It looks like maybe it's already been cropped. That's hard to say. It's not looking super sharp. To me, it looks like maybe the focus is good, but maybe it's just been cropped in a bit. I don't know. But
Chris, you just have to look at the chromatic aberration. Look at the chromatic aberration, Chris. It's
it's already been cropped.
It has to be cropped. Come on.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I'm trying to be nice. So then cropping it even more vertically is going to be a tough one, but I think compositionally that'd be the right choice.
I got to address Stephen when it's my turn. Don, you want to go?
So Yeah, I mean, I agree with pretty much everything that Chris said. The snow is not a needed component of this image. It's bright and it's distracting, and also there is a pseudo horizon line at the very, very top edge of the frame, and you just take that little sliver off. It's not needed. It's just distracting me and taking the context away. I love the fact that you have just a single solitary person with all of this asphalt around and this S curve, and that's the subject. Take that minimalist approach and make sure that you embrace that. I would have also said, this person is walking. Obviously, they're not running. They're going to be in the frame for a while. You can take multiple shots. Their legs are relatively straight, and there's a tiny little sliver between them. But maybe if they took, like they were in the process of taking a step forward, just to create a little bit of a separation between the legs, a little sense of motion. But also, if they are taking a step forward, depending on how people walk, you might have a slight triangle with a bit between the legs there in terms of a shape, and it would be a relatively higher contrast area because the person is wearing black, and that could be just another, if you talk about an image in terms of lines and shapes and colors, that's what we're distilling this image down to. So how can we improve that just by the shape of the person as they're walking in a slightly different frame? I think could be an advantage. And then if you're feeling really adventurous, make that blue umbrella red.
Oh,
see, I disagree. Well, I'd like to see that. I don't totally agree. Of course, Terrell said, who the hell has a blue umbrella?
I know. That's what I love about it.
That's really the question here, right? I want to walk up to the guy and go, where'd you buy that thing? I mean, it's amazing. What's interesting is Stephen had made the comment that he made the same face I made when Chris said crop out the snow. So for me, the leading lines in here, awesome. Traditional S curve, you've got the flow. I love the fact, though, that it's also uphill. So I sense X, Y, and Z axis, which is really neat to me. The sense of location that I get, the blue against the almost black and white. It's not, but it's almost a natural black and white feel to this image with that blue umbrella, I think is awesome. I think the red would lose some of that contrast. The position of the person, if you're going to keep this frame, I like that too. But the exposure has some serious issues to me on this particular image. So if you look at the dirty snow and the crap that's in the street down below, it's just pure blocked up black. I need to see some detail there and some detail in their clothes. I don't know, are they wearing a suit, a tracksuit? I'm not saying it can't be a silhouette, but it shouldn't be a solid silhouette based on what the rest of this picture looks like, right? I think you need to just do some level adjustment or curves adjustment on this thing. The snow, if you're going to keep the snow, it should be whiter and pop a little bit. I'm not saying pure white, but it's a little muted here. Now, when Chris made the comment about dirty snow, I spent 3 years working at WCZY in Detroit. My car rusted because I came from California. I had a Fiat X19 and it rusted in 6 freaking months. Yeah. And it ruined my, oh man. And what's funny is the first time it snows, you're both from Canada, man. You get this. But when it first snows, it's so beautiful. And a couple weeks in, it's still beautiful. And then as they start plowing salt to the side of the roads, you end up with this mucky, depressing black snow. And what's funny here, and the reason I made that face, Stephen, was I didn't think about cropping out the snow. I thought about the fact that that horizon line on the top drives me nuts, crop down. Thought about the fact that there's a little triangle on the right in the middle of that bank of snow, right on the edge of the frame that looks to be a post. I was just going to say crop into that and crop in on the left almost to the double line section, not quite. And that would have been vertical, which then lends itself to the leading lines. But my God, man, cropping the snow out is the move here. Yes, crop out the snow, crop all the way to, I'm going to miss it, but all the way to about there, closer to the snow, and then about right there, that's your shot, right? That's what you want to do. Make it vertical, commit to it, own it, and there's a lot of potential here if you can recover those shadows. Anything else on this one?
No, I think we covered it. No more snow.
Okay. No more snow.
Wait.
Okay.
Our next shot is
Don, you're up on Shapley.
Lots more snow.
Snow. I know snow. I know a thing or two about snow, and I've never taken an image quite like this, and I really like it. It reminds me of studies of the human body form, and just the way that those different curves, they could be, buttocks or shoulder blades, or just various parts of the human body that I'm sort of seeing in this abstract composition. I say it's abstract. It is solid, but it evokes a lot of different opinions in my mind as to what I'm looking at. Am I looking at snow? Is it a sand dune? Is it a human body? What are the shapes kind of resembling to me? And the fact that my mind goes to this kind of curious place, I like. I like that the image is in black and white. This photo does not need color. I would have done a little bit of dodging and burning in a classical type of style on this image, just to take some of the highlight areas that are a bit too attention grabbing and drop them down. And some of the crunched dark areas, just bring them up a little bit, just to accentuate some of the lines that are running through them. But overall, this is a study in finding the minimalist approach of taking one chunk of just rolling snow and making sure that all of those lines and shapes connect together well. And I think the photographer did a very good job of achieving that goal. There is one spot at the very top of the frame, slightly to the left. It's a dark triangle-y type of area that I don't think works with the rest of the curves and bends. So I would maybe crop that down a little bit or find another way to otherwise remove it. But otherwise, the framing is just spectacular. I really like this image.
So I love this image. And I don't care what it is. Like, if you looked at this hanging on a wall, you wouldn't know what the subject was. I'm okay with that. And when this first came up, I don't know if anybody here knows who Craig Colvin is. Craig Colvin shoots nudes in natural environments. Like, he'll go to Valley of Fire and place a nude model in the rocks, blending with the nature shapes. And he's been on the show before, and I'm going to slide this one in so that you can kind of see it. This was the shot that Craig did when he was on, right? And when I saw this picture, this is what I thought of, is that kind of a look. This could be human bodies melded in together. I love the fact that it gives that kind of feel that makes sense to me when you see that. It leaves everything to interpretation. Whoever sees this, I honestly believe in the coolest way, is going to see something different. I don't think two people will interpret this. It's completely abstract. You get to decide what you think about it. However, to me, it's too contrasty. I don't mind the contrast in the back, but in the front, I think the highlights are too hot. I'd bring those down a little bit. I want myself wanting it to be a hair whiter, the kind of almost standard vertical right out of a camera crop is a little snapshotty to me. I'd like you to do something a little more artistic with the actual ratio of the image to invite me into the space a little bit more. But other than that, yeah, you got me on this one. I like it. Last image. This one, Chris, you're the guest, so we'll have you go first on the last one too. Sunrise at Zabriskie Point.
I'm still hung up on the other photo, but you guys covered it really well. Yeah, beautiful. I mean, this kind of goes.
I did go to you on that one, didn't I?
No, no, you didn't.
I didn't. I'm sorry. My bad. Go back to this one.
No, okay, all right.
No, my bad. I lost my place.
I mean, you guys covered it really well. So the thing that fascinates me, of course, wintertime here in Alberta, this is a big part of what I look for shooting. And so first thing that fascinates me is just the amount of curvature that they're getting here. And I'm thinking it's maybe like, my guess is it's like river rock or something underneath creating that. Often snow, you're going to get fairly flat scenes. So I love that they were able to find this texture. And then again, this is going to kind of go into the other photo. timing of light is everything, especially in a shot like this. And I agree, bring up some of those black areas at the top, bring down some of the highlights in the front, but the lighting here is beautiful, right? Like they really caught a nice time. And the only question I really wanted to bring up here, because this plagues me all the time, the texture in the snow is beautiful, tons of detail, right? Like you go into this shot, you pixel peep it, it holds up beautifully. But focus, placement of where to put the focus. I'm not allowed to focus stack and combine shots, but I know I'm just not allowed to. It's sad. But Don, I know you guys can. So what do you guys think about, given that you have enough time to shoot this, focus stacking and getting depth of field throughout the entire photo?
Yeah,
Don, I'm gonna let
two
you
shots, maybe three. You wouldn't need a whole lot. And so that would, towards the very front and the very back, you start to lose that critical focus ever so slightly. And if you were to enhance that, I think that the image would flow a little bit top to bottom a bit better. But simultaneously, for me, the most important part of the image is the center. And to counter the idea of focus stacking, what if you actually shot this at a shallower depth of field? So the top and the bottom were intentionally hitting that bokeh point where it just became a natural out of focusness, and the attention was just thereby drawn to the central part in the image. Both approaches, I think, would work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because it's the kind of photo where, I think, Steve, you mentioned this too. For me personally, it's the kind of photo where I want to scan it and I want to look all over it. And so I like the fact that if everything has a bit more focus, you do really take the time to explore the photograph. But yeah, I mean, that's my only comment. Beautifully done. See, I'm just jealous I don't get to focus stack.
I'm torn on this. I would not focus stack this, but I'm torn on the going even shallower, because there's something about the back is super sharp, the front not so much, or the middle not so much. I think I might move where it is sharp, but I kind of like almost the fact that it makes me, because it's abstract is the only way it works. Don't do this with a portrait, people. But the fact that it's soft makes me almost want to squint and look at it deeper and make it sharp in my head, which is while I am finding out what is the subject, what does this say to me, what does it mean to me, almost the softness draws me in to the figuring it out for me. Yeah. All right. Anything else on that one?
No, we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No.
And the last one is, once again, sunrise at Zabriskie Point.
Mm-hmm. So right off the bat, I think the thing that grabs me here, I personally think it's a beautifully done tonal range. I don't mind a little bit, especially with black and white. I kind of have a heart for blocking up shadows and highlights a little bit. I mean, I didn't mind it very much in the snow shot as much, but here I like that we've got beautiful detail all throughout. For me, that's what grabs me right off the bat. Again, lighting, right? Like great time of day. I like the composition. I like that sort of higher peak to the right. It's a little bit atypical, but you still see it. It works well. But the relationship between the background and its more grayer tones, and then the silvery texture of the mountains, I like it. So it's not as abstract as the other photo. It's definitely more of an obvious look of what it is, but it does make the eye move. It makes the eye flow. Lots of areas where my eye moves around. So I do like that aspect.
It's interesting. I'll go second on this one and Don will close us out. I think this is a perfect choice for black and white. So I've seen these type of shots. It's Death Valley, if I'm correct, a million times. They're always in color because there's so much color out there to begin with. Making this black and white is seeing something. It's like what Don was saying about the tree shot earlier, the first shot of the day. You're taking something that's photographed a lot and you're doing it slightly differently from what I see regularly. I like that. You have detail freaking everywhere in this shot. Mm-hmm. You managed your shadows. The highlights are not clipped, although I would argue that main area right in front of us on the right-hand side could be toned down a little bit to blend in, but it's all about light. It's all about light. It's all about light. And I think you came here at the right time of day for the textures that you have on the ground here. The other thing, by the way, so many people take a shot like this and over sharpen it. And it drives me nuts when I see those over sharpened artifacts. when you already have something that's got detail in it, and I don't think you overworked this. I mean, could you even dial it back a little bit? Maybe, but I don't think you overworked it at all. Now, one thing I noticed, it's really small, but if you look on the left-hand side, the first set of like hills where it goes into the valley area, there's a weird little artifact right above where it goes in. I don't know what that is. It could be something natural, but that one kind of bothered me a little bit. And again, I think if you tone those highlights down in the front, you'd get a little bit more mood or emotion out of it. I also wonder if this could have been more pano. If you took out the first, like bottom right corner right behind the watermark, there's one little roll of hill. If you just crop to the top of that, I think the pano would feel more expansive to me. This almost feels cramped, and if it was pano, I'd feel like I had left to right movement to go into. Don?
So there's a couple of things here. I agree with most of what's been said here, although I do think the image has been slightly overprocessed, not in terms of sharpness, but in terms of shadow consistency. Take a look at the shadow on the backside of the peak. Compare that to the shadows at the top of the frame. They're very different brightnesses. And once I see that, I can't stop unseeing it. Like one's like pitch black and the other one is just below middle gray, yet they're both harsh shadows in the same frame. And so I can tell that something's been processed here. And the same thing, center of the frame near the bottom, there's one darker blob of a shadow that's much darker than the others that are surrounding it. And in this scenario, you should have some level of consistency. They don't have to be all equal, but the divergent shadows here are quite a distraction to me once you notice them. But we're talking about shadows, we're talking about contrast in the image, and that can be a very useful thing. So, you know, if it would be possible, I don't know if like you can only stand in this spot to take this image, but if you could move further to the right, and I don't know how big these peaks are and how far you'd have to move, but if that peak could be positioned behind the tiny pocket of shadow that's just to its left, then the higher contrast right at the peak would be a stronger visual anchor point. And I just kind of turn my brain off, and I'm not thinking about this as necessarily a mountain and these ranges and things. I'm looking in terms of contrast lines and shapes, and how you can abstract and where your brain is going to focus on a little bit more strongly if you move in certain locations, or how you process the image. And you need to look not realistically at a photograph like this, but kind of understanding the visual instincts that we have and exploring those as an abstracted kind of element to figure out how you can improve an image like this. I like the shot, there's no question, but a couple of things, and that's it, could have been explored. I'm not going to say that they could improve the shot, but you could definitely explore them.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Anybody got anything else on this one? No. It's interesting looking at the comments, the things that people...
I think we're good.
I love the fact that people identify parts of an image differently. You know, Phil made the comment, crop enough to take the lower right finger out, and now I can't not see a finger. You know, it's just, it's amazing what people see, that sometimes you just, as you look globally at something, if you don't look more detailed, it's amazing what you can miss sometimes. So that's it for this time around for the image critique shows. I absolutely love these. It's my favorite time when we get to do these. We're a week late on this one for 2 weeks late, 2 weeks late for this month, but so glad that you guys joined us. Chris, thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, my
it
pleasure.
Is so appreciated your input, man.
No problem. No, it's always great to be back. So thank you very much for having me.
If people want to find you or where can they follow you? And what are you doing now that people need to see?
Well, you know, it's we're doing our 2 videos as usual with Deep Review TV. I mean, that keeps it most of their time, and it's been kind of the year of Micro Four Thirds. So that's you know, or at least the the first quarter Micro Four Thirds. So, we're exploring a lot with the OM1, GH6. That's kind of taking a lot of our time now. And we're trying to focus more on some opinion pieces, talking about advice for brands and things like that. So kind of a departure from gear reviews, which I like. I mean, it's nice to be able to mix it up, go in different directions. So if that's interesting to you, I'd love for you guys to check it out. DPReview TV.
Oh, you're muted, Steve.
Thank you. DP Review TV on YouTube. Go there, subscribe, watch the videos. And if you watch somebody's video and you like it, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up. It really does help. The subscribe numbers, a lot of people don't care about anymore, but subscribe because it is a metric. It is a metric that people do use. And it's that little boost that keeps people creating. Don, aside from the Ukraine work that you're doing, which again, folks, if you're not following Don, go look back in his Twitter feed because he's got some amazing images inspired by what's happening in Ukraine that I really think everybody should see because I saw them and it really warmed my heart when I did. I'm not kidding. So where can people find you online?
Doncom.ca, DONKOM.ca. And everything is linked to there. If you want to find my Twitter or any social media accounts, they're all there. And of course, photogeekweekly.com. If you haven't caught up to the latest episodes, they are all ready for you to listen to. I want to get both you, Steve, and Chris on upcoming episodes as time allows. So, and there's a lot of photo news that we're, that we can talk about, new cameras and new tech and new gear. However, I will say that probably the next episode will be focused predominantly on the role of photography in a wartime and photojournalism and those types of stories, just as sort of a special aside episode, because I think that conversation needs to be had as well. And in this particular case with Ukraine, I would argue a big part of that photojournalism, which is so important, and we've lost the number of photojournalists in this war. I would actually argue that citizen journalist that is posting on TikTok, is posting on Twitter, is posting on Instagram or wherever they can, is a fascinating area of photography right now. I also want to mention Frex made the comment first time seeing the show and was great. Thanks. And everybody, Mario and Terrell, and I can't name everybody here, but Phil, Terry, Jane, Drake, Stephen. Thank you to everybody for watching. I do want to remind you, if you do want to get in on this, all you got to do is go over to Flickr, of course, you got to have a Flickr account, which can be a free account. They do have a free plan. They have a paid plan. I personally believe that the people who work for Flickr are some wonderful people, so I have a pro plan I pay. Find the Behind the Shot group, subscribe to this Behind the Shot group, and then start submitting your images. You can play in the pool safely. We're not going to critique your image. Put it in there, let people comment, have some fun. Now, if you want your image considered for the critique shows, the way you give permission for that is add the tag. It's not a hashtag, by the way. Flickr has their own Flickr tag system. btscritique, all one word. It's got to be in the group, and it's got to be tagged, and that should get it in. Anybody want to share anything else before we hit the road?
No, not really. I'm going to bed.
Yeah, me too. It's later for you.
Steve,
it's later
as
for
always.
you.
This is a pleasure.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is absolutely all mine. Thank you again to Chris Niccolls for doing this, to my buddy Don Komarechka for doing this. Chris, it's really late. Don, it's really early. Hasn't even barely had his coffee yet. But thank you to everybody for watching. This is Behind the Shot. Make sure you check out the normal shows, where each and every show we try and get inside the mind of a great photographer by taking a closer look behind one of their shots. I'm Steve Brazill. We will see you on the next show.